something happens at that particular moment, and he realizes that it wasn't a very scornful look the way it was, let's say, for last couple of weeks. So what happened on that particular day? Very interesting. There was a news item in The Hindu that there is a young boy named Virat who has won some kind of a chess championship. And what happened? The girl saw that and read the news item, and the news item also had his photograph. And at that moment, this boy, who was like a commodity in a crowd, sort of slightly stood beside and became a brand, right? And how did he become a brand? So I'll not get into much of a detail, but if you look at the elements, there was a news item in a paper called Hindu, which is one of the most eminent newspapers of this country, right? Then there was about chess, a sports that is sort of connected with the intellect. Third, it was about Loyola College without any sort of ulterior motive. Imagine if it was from a Pachapas college, I don't know what it would mean, but still, for a time being, we'll take it that this boy was from a Loyola college. And the most important of all, for all this week, his deportment was very, very nice, right? So imagine if this guy was going and standing outside a bus stand and whistling or ogling and stuff like that, it could have a different reaction. So if you really look at all those four things, and there are multiple such things, went and defined a brand for this person called Virat, right? Now I have got two bottles of water, right? There's this bottle and there's this bottle. Now typically if I would have asked you which bottle you would prefer, I'm sure most of you would have said this, right? Now both the bottles have the same content, it's the same H2O. But what has happened? This is a brand and this is a commodity. Now that's exactly what the journey happened for a young Virat. It was actually a commodity. He was just going and standing outside a bus stop wanting to go home. But when he won the chess championship and when he sort of his story came in the press, he became a brand on that particular day. Now we'll just move forward. We'll sort of keep traveling back to Virat and Anushka into our conversation. But let's move ahead. Maybe it will come, you can just figure it out. So what I will sort of ask a very simple question. Yeah. So we start with brand and a branding. What is a brand and what's a branding, right? And it's a very simple thing. If you ask, brand is a promise that an entity makes and a trust that a consumer reposes on you, right? So when I hold this water of bottle, this bottle, whatever the brand, Aqua Steel, it says, hey, it's a promise I'm giving you that when you consume this water, it's going to be edible, it's going to be safe, and it's portable. It's a portable drinking water, right? And what do you do as a consumer? You repose your trust, and as Anand said, who is a consumer? A person who pays the price, right? If you're not paying the price, then it's a social service. So when you repose your faith in this brand by paying a price, by going out into the market, that's when the brand gets created. Now what is branding? Branding is basically storytelling and conversing. And now since Saurav talked about social media, and Arush is also going to talk about, I won't sort of steal their thunder, but nonetheless, one of the biggest difference that has happened is, unlike in the past, where brands were built merely by storytelling, that's no more the case. Saurav gave an example of how you go onto the Facebook page of a particular brand for whatever information and services, so on and so forth. So one big difference when you go about doing branding or building brands is that now you have to have a conversational skills. It's no more a one-way traffic where you could have gone and you could have sort of communicated. This is a very interesting slide. So what you see on the extreme left, right? It was the first coded law ever that came onto this planet Earth. Hammurabi, it is in 1753 BC in today's Egypt, which is Babylonian Empire, and you can see that stele of Hammurabi. It's there in the Louvre Museum in France. So what does that scale say? It is the first time ever in the human history that laws were codified. It was written in a book. And I consider that as a first step of branding, right? Because that was the when people said, hey, this is what we will do, this is what we will not do, so on and so forth. And as you move from left towards the right, what you see is that from engraving, we move to printing, to broadcasting, and to conversation. And if you look at what's happening, is that it's expanding. The influence is expanding because earlier when I would have engraved something, it's only a set of audiences that I would have reached out to. But with newspaper, with printing, my audience reach became much wider. And with broadcasting, with this television, it became still wider. But with the internet today, you know how many users Facebook has on a daily basis? Any guesses across the world? Roughly about 2 billion, absolutely. So the whole world's population is about 7 billion, and we have 2 billion active users logging onto the Facebook platform. That's the kind of a power of an internet. And the question is, when you're building your brand, how do you leverage this? So fundamentally, if you ask a question, is internet some new God-given angel? It was not really. If you go back to 1753 when Hammurabi was there, when he sort of codified his law, maybe that was the best innovation that would have happened. When printing came, maybe that was the best innovation that happened. Then when broadcasting happened, that was the best innovation. So it's not that it's out of the world wacky innovation, but the question is, how do you utilize that to sort of promote yourself? Now this is one example. Now this is one of the companies that I consult with. Almost 90% of the audiences here, you go on to some of the OTT platforms, right? Whether it's Netflix, Hotstar, Amazon, Sony Live, whatever it is. Now what you see here is a very interesting stuff. On the left side, now this is the page that I've taken from LinkedIn, and I'm sure since many of you would be embarking on your careers, besides Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn is going to be a far more helpful tool for all of you, right? When you go and you create your profile. Now if you look at on the bottom, I'm sure on your TV screens it will be far more clear. There is something called like, comment and share, and this is what the 3 things every social has got. So when you create a brand, now here is an opportunity where people can come on your brand and talk to you, which was not the case, let's say, in a broadcasting world or in a printing world. Again, if you see it on the right, that's the kind of a page that they have created where they are talking about, they have put some images. And the third thing that you see in terms of variables, so when you go to the App Store, what you see is that there is some kind of a rating for that app, right? A 4-star rating, 4.2-star rating. Then there are a lot of reviews that are being posted. Then there are a lot of number of downloads. Now these are the kind of stuff that people consider before sort of even interacting with you, right? So in the old day, now imagine if you go back to our Anushka and Virat, I mean, if that particular communication would not have happened in a newspaper, maybe that romancing wouldn't have even started, right? So what you are actually seeing here are now there are far more opportunities whereby you can reach out to the audience.
Mr. KK, I'm just reminding you another 2 minutes, please.
Sure. That's my last slide, where I'm going to talk about the brand nirvanic moment, which is brand loyalty, right? And every brand wants to have a loyal consumer base simply because the consumer can come again and again to your brand. Now go back to Anushka and Virat, and this time I could be little more ruthless onto them. Now imagine every time Virat says, hey Anushka, can we go out for a coffee? Can we go out for, let's say, have some masala dosa? And if she's expecting a gift that Virat should give, right? And that gift today, if you look at from most of the brand, is like a cashback. So most of you go and interact with a particular brand or a particular service because that particular service is giving you what you call a discount or a sale or a coupon or a cashback. And that, according to me, is not a healthy trend where you build a brand loyalty. So if you're talking about brand loyalty, then you need to come out of discounts, you need to come out of cashback, and you need to have a girlfriend who will still come with you, irrespective of whether you're doing gift or not. Thank you very much. Have a great day.